Try this again. I updated my drives on my computer and it shut down my volume and I did the whole I did the whole Belladonna for the morning medicine and there was no sound. So I had to delete it off everything and get my computer fixed and get back to it. So deadly nightshade, Belladonna. Uh, Belladonna acts primarily on the brain and diversity of its action on men and animals. So some animals, they don't get poisoned by it. Goats and rabbits, they can eat it and it's no problem, but it has no poison action on them, whatever. On carnivorous animals, it acts with moderate intensity, but on man, it acts with highest intensity. So it in the one reading I remember, it says for unwanted neighbors. You put this in their food or something and you won't have to worry about them neighbors. Cases of belladonna poisoning have frequently been mistaken for cases of scarlatina. Scarlatina comes from strep throat, not taken care of properly. Strep throat can turn into scarlatina, which is what I thought was going on with my kid. I made a boo-boo and I did not take the case and did not find out when it started, because it started when he got scratched by a cat and he had cat scratch fever. Whole different set of remedies. And I was going after scarlatina because he said I got a flu, and I tried some remedies and wasn't working. Then oh man, now my skin's all broken out, and he showed me. I'm thinking is that scarlatina from having strep and I didn't, get it. So here it was cat scratch fever. But it is the smooth form only of scarlatina, not real raised bumps. These presenting a smooth, even red surface that comes under its controlling action and prophylaxis. Now, prophylaxis, that's very interesting because this is the one that Hahnemann realized it can act like a vaccine. That's what prophylaxis means. You give it to people that don't have the disease while the disease is in the area to strengthen their immunity so they don't get that disease or they don't get it as bad. So the prophylaxis, why it happened for him is he was giving belladonna to a young lady in a community, and then all of a sudden, Scarlatina came around, and basically she did not get it. The whole family had it, but she didn't have it. And he realized, wow, that's interesting. So he took Belladonna, gave it to a bunch of people around the community where the Scarlatina was, and they didn't get it either. So that's what a prophylactic is like. And I was on a call with a lady from, I think she's in America, but we were on a call from the people in the UK. So basically, that's what her whole thing was talking about. We can do prophylaxis on a lot of these diseases to help people not to get as sick or not even to catch the illness. Um, and it's basically just acting like a vaccine. That's what was else are they going to say with that? Prophylaxis. Oh, I got morbillinum, which is measles nosode, which is they took the measles pus or sputum of someone who had measles, made a medicine out of it. I don't know which one, the pus or probably the pus, but made a medicine out of it, and now you got that nosode, and who knows how long ago that was made. Once you make it, it's usually good for all of it. When such an epidemic is about, anyone who may be exposed to infection may obtain almost certain immunity. Now, this is in a book. This isn't me. By taking belladonna 2 or 3 times a day against scarlatina. So, a striking picture of belladonna is sometimes seen in cases of worm fever. I don't know what that is, but obviously you have worms and you get a fever from it. A case of feeble child, age 3, by Lutz, a homeopathic doctor, had the following symptoms: awakened or at least sits up at night, in bed screaming, cannot be pacified, wets bed at night, passes worms now and then, cheeks and ears, cheeks and ear tips, brilliant scarlet. So they're brilliant red. And as soon as you see someone with a brilliant red ears and cheeks, and you tell them to stick out their tongue, and it's a strawberry color, you'd right away think of belladonna. Other parts of the face, especially around the mouth, white as snow. So they're pale in the mouth and different areas, but the cheeks are red, the ears are red. Let's see, where was that? Passes worms now and then. Oh, sorry, parts of face, especially around mouth, white as snow. Eyes are brilliant, or like the pupils are dilated. They're staring. They're just wide-eyed, staring. Pupils are dilated. Skin is dry and hot like fire. On being spoken to, they flew into a violent rage. They'll bite and chew and spit and, you know. Cena was given to this child, 200C. Now, Cena is a very good one for expelling worms. There's a couple other ones, but that's one of the main ones you'd think of. Had ameliorated it. In other words, it passive, he wasn't having all the symptoms. He wasn't as bad. The fever, the things went on. But Belladonna 100,000 C. They potentize it 100,000 times, and I've gone over potentization, and it's in my community if you don't know what it is. And he says it, not me, cured permanently, and that is Dr. Where is it? Lutz. He's a German doctor, undoubtedly. Lutz sounds German. But that's a 1M, 100,000 C. Okay, because corresponds to the symptoms of air sickness. So in aviators, so very good for air sickness. Give as preventative for that air sickness. Belladonna has cured a very severe headache in a nervous man occurring whenever he was exposed to tobacco smoke. So anybody that gets a headache from that tobacco smoke, Belladonna. Constitutions, this is going to be a little deep. I'm not going to get into it. It is suited to plethoric persons with red face. They're a meaty person. And to conditions where there is a local plethora, which is swelling, stuff like that, swelling, water retention, stuff like that. That is inflammatory states with pain. So any like arthritis where the joints are inflamed and that. Throbbing, shiny, redness. That's the big keynotes. That thing will be throbbing, it'll be shiny, and it'll be bright red. As in an acute gout. It is suited to bilious, lymphatic temperament. Bilious being, I forget what that is. But anyways, light hair and complexion, blue eyes. It grows in dry limestone soils, and it is an acute correlative to calcarb. So that's like a doctrine of signatures. So it grows in limestone, and calcarb is calcium. So that grows. That's like rocks too. So I think it says Belladonna is the acute, where if you settle the whole thing down, the disease, the sickness, whatever's going on, and it doesn't finalize it, you go to calcarb. That's more like a chronic of Belladonna. Its influence is felt more in intelligent and plethoric persons who are jovial and entertaining when well, but violent when sick. Therefore, a great children's remedy and good for hematoma. I think that's head injury or whatever. Don't quote me on that. I don't feel like looking that one up. Okay, Belladonna, deadly nightshade. And that grows out there. It's purple berries on a little bush that I should have brought up a picture of it, but no need to, because you're not going to go out looking for it. Violence and suddenness of attack. That's a 3. Aconite has that, and Belladonna has that, those two. And now there's a remedy that is for like colds, flus, earaches, things like that. ABC they call it, and it's Europe has it basically. I'm not sure about here, but it's aconite, belladonna, and chamomile. And if you have a child that's spitting, screaming, mad, and they got an earache, chamomile is usually the one, but could be belladonna or aconite. Same thing with flus, fevers, whatever's going on with that person. ABC will work. Aconite, belladonna, and chamomile. Now, my mentor said you should use one remedy. And why do you use one remedy? Because once you use that remedy, now you know what worked. And that'll correspond, just like belladonna corresponded to calcarb, it will correspond to the next remedy, and you'll see the case. But if you give I did that with my son. I had 20 remedies in there, and they were for his allergy to a dog, and I don't know which one worked, but it got him over that. His swelling in his eyes went down, never allergic to a dog again, and that's what got me started. I said, holy crap. I was studying it, but when I seen that happen and he was never allergic again, he sleeps with a dog even to today and doesn't need more medicine, I said, I got to study this stuff, So that was 30 years I started, but I gave him them remedies. Was there a consequence there? No. I wasn't looking to do anything else. I was young in it. I was a young father. I just wanted to get over that, and I did. Gave him that 20 remedy. There was 20 remedies in there. gave them to them, everything went away, that was fine. Now, the other end of that is, if you do give something like that, you can always, once that's cleared up, now you can look at the person and see, now where does this allergy stem from? What is this person? You'll see the next thing come up, whether it's a grief, an injury, or whatever. The vital force, you'll see something because you heal from the last thing that happened to you to the next, to the next, to the next. So, and it'll go back to your life history until you get to your constitutional state. So, is there, to give a combination remedy? And I'm sure, there's a lady down the street, my sister's friend, that, had allergy. I said, you ought to go look up a remedy, an allergy remedy. She did. She said, yeah, we take it when these allergies come around, we take it. It takes care of it. So, anyways, whether one remedy or combination remedies, get to using homeopathic remedies. You'll be surprised at the results you'll get. Hot red skin, and if you come into my community, you can talk to me and you can figure out, you can start understanding homeopathy a little better. And my goal is to get this into everybody's hands, in their minds first, so that they at least, because I didn't realize people don't, what's that, homeopathy? What is that? Once it's in their minds, now I want to get it into their hands so that they can start utilizing it for their family's health. Especially now that, insurance is going to go up. A lot of people aren't going to pay that much. My sister said it's going from 500 to 1,700, something like that. The hospitals may be closing. I don't know what's going to happen there. But if these things happen, you want to arm yourself and have something that you can protect your family. And that's my whole goal. It wasn't to become a homeopath, and which I never did. I should have took tests and that. And I probably could still take the test, but I don't want to be a homeopath. I want to educate people on it. And the idea with that is, you can be just like me. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to. All you got to do is get to know these medicines. And that's why I do this. Because once you get the real key is getting to know the medicines, the keynotes, the different symptomologies and that. And then eventually, another part of it is getting to know how to take a case, how to ask questions, and how to use the repertory under whatever part you're looking at, heart, head, him, limb, kidney, whatever it is, how to look under there and pull out the remedies that you may be right. Then to match those remedies to that person. You go to the Materia Medica, which is what this is all from. You go to the Materia Medica and you start reading these things and you say, oh yeah, he got that. Oh, he's got that. Oh, they got that. And when you get 3 of them, usually you're good to go. You try a remedy, it doesn't work. It usually won't do a thing to that person. It may ameliorate it, or if you give it too high, it could aggravate them, but it won't harm them. That one, it didn't get rid of it. Okay, let's try this one. That's why my wife's foot, sometimes like her headache. I got a headache. What is it? Throbbing, pounding, stinging, stabbing. What's it feel like? Burning. She picked burning. I gave her arsenic, gone. 10 Tylenol PM, couldn't get rid of it. Arsenic. 10 minutes later, I come down from showering after work. I come home from work. I got this head. I gave her that medicine, arsenicum. 10 minutes, I come down later. She's on the phone like nothing ever happened. Headache gone. So that's how quick it could be. Or it could be like my wife's foot. She got a bump on the bottom. I don't know what it is. She had her Achilles tendon cut when she was a child. Stopped her from being a gymnast. And I basically been trying all, I'm thinking I'm going with that Ruta. That should be Ruta. That should be Ruta. Now maybe I didn't stick with Ruta long enough, but then I tried another remedy, and then she had pains in her legs. I got rid of that with phosphoric acid. So that's why I say sometimes you have to zigzag. Sometimes you have to try things. It's always not so clear. She went to the doctors with that lump, and they said, come look at this. They called some more doctors, and they didn't know what the heck it was. They didn't know what to do. They didn't do nothing. So it's on me to try to help her. Hot red skin, that's a big one. The skin, even to touch, will feel so hot it'll burn the hand. And it's very red. Flushed face, dilated pupils, throbbing, whether in the head or the whole body, but especially in the keratoids and the temples. Neuralgic pains come and go. There's some very severe, sharp neuralgic pains. Now, neuralgia, you think of hypericum, because that's all for all nerve stuff. Not all nerve stuff, but this one, they have neuralgic pains. And these are all 3s. These are all big keynote symptoms. Worst drafts, that's a 3. They don't like a draft at all. Check sweats. So anytime, that's a 3. Anytime their sweat is stopped, whether cold water or, however you stop their sweat, if their sweat, they're not able to sweat, that'll make the symptoms worse. Usually 3 to 11 p.m. it's worse. Heat of sun. They don't like the heat of sun. They don't like taking cold, like any kind of cold stuff. Light noise, jarring. They can't even, if they're laying in bed and they got a belladonna fever or cold or pneumonia, and you touch that bed, even just walking in will aggravate them. You touch the bed and they'll be like, oh, because they can't take that movement, that jarring, that stuff. Now that's different than belladonna, bryonia, because bryonia is they can't move themselves. But this one is they don't want nobody jarring them, touching them, anything like that. Better rest in bed, or yeah, better rest in bed. Better rest in bed. Thought it was worse. Okay, better rest in bed. Light covers. They like light covers, not heavy stuff, because they're sweating like crazy. Semi-erect. So they want to sit up. They don't want to be laying totally down. That should be worse rest. Uh, They want to lean the head against something. They want to lean it on anything. Oh, these neuralgic pains that come on suddenly. Oxytocin is another one. That's a hormone basically. That's another one with the neuralgic pains. But they want to lean their head on something to get rid of that pain. Sit ups, semi-erect. Okay, ill effects of hair cutting, head getting wet. So these two things, it's weird. Why would hair cutting cause them to have problems? Sunstroke, walking in uh, walking in wind or drought. So any air blowing and drought or getting their head wet or the haircut seems to cause them to have this problem, have whatever problem it is they've got. Delirium. So they're very delirious. When I had pneumonia, walking pneumonia, I remember throwing up. My mom cleaning it up. I looked on the curtain rods and I seen little green men floating up there, and I said, "I'll get them little green men, Mom." I can remember that clear as day, even right now. And that was the delirium that I was having. Frightful images. I don't know what they did for me, but probably antibiotics and stuff like that. But I guarantee a belladonna, I'd have been better the next day. Just like the lady in her daughter came home and she had COVID. They must have took the test. They said she got COVID. And she's just laying there. That's the only symptom I got. I said, here, go down to the health food store and get gelsimium. She went down, called me when she got there. I said, ask him for gelsimium. Got it, took it back, gave it to her. She said, in her testimony in my community, she said, fever broke and the fever broke and she was better the next day. So, that's how quickly things can work. And that was just from one keynote, not moving. Frightful images. Gelsimium and belladonna, close relations there with a lot of stuff. Furious bites and strikes. This is a real keynote for belladonna. This person's either got an earache, a flu, a cold, a pneumonia, and they're biting people and striking people. At first they'll just be delirious. They won't be, but eventually they'll be furious, biting, striking. It just aggravates them. Desire to escape. They want to get away. They hallucinate. That's a 3. There's hallucinations there. Just like I had seen them green men. Like they were like ghost figures up on the uh, curtain rods. Abdomen's distended and hot. Worst touch of bed and clothes. That's lachesis. Lachesis don't like clothes around the throat. They have a sore throat from a cold, flu, fever, whatever. And they don't want clothes around their throat. Belladonna doesn't want clothes, any kind of touch of any clothes anywhere. Cramp, colic in the abdomen, pain in the splenic region where sneezing, coughing, and touch. So they don't want that area to be touched. And when they sneeze and cough, that splenic area has worse pain. Swelling of glands of neck. That's a 3. Especially goiters and stuff like that. Stiffness of neck to shoulder on the right side. So there's a big right-sided remedy. If you have stiffness of neck and shoulder and it's on the left, that would be another remedy. Back feels broken. Pain in hips and thighs. You know what? I wanted to go back to, oh well. Let's see, where am I at? Otitis, yeah. Otitis media. That's an infection in the ear. Hot, sensitive, and painful. The ear is. Eardrum bulges red, and it's throbbing and beating. So the ear is throbbing and beating. Hematoma, that is bleeding out of the ear. Pain causes delirium. Child cries out in sleep. So that ear pain, that's great ear pain remedy. Pupils dilated. That's a 3. Staring, brilliant, dry, photophobia, and diplomia. Okay, so they're staring. Their eyes are wide open, brilliant. Dry photophobia. The pupils are dilated, and diplopia is double vision. There was something called triplopia, which was triple vision. Lines are crooked when they're reading. So when they're reading, their eyes are crooked. I mean, the lines are crooked. They look at it and they just can't read because the lines aren't clear to them. Face becomes pale and red alternately. So they're flushed and then they're pale. They're flushed and they're pale. It's a bluish or purplish red. That's a 3. Hot, swollen, and shining. That's anything. If the joints, you have arthritis, they'll be hot, swollen, and shining. With these flus and pneumonias and things, the face is hot, swollen, and shining. Convulsions in the face. So they'd have distortions of their face, and this could be an epileptic stuff. This could be even the flus and colds and pneumonias. Meningitis, infection of the uterus for the female. Menses are increased. Bright red, too early and profuse. But it's bright red, too early and profuse. They have menses and lochia. It's offensive and hot. So when it comes out, it smells bad and it is hot. Everything in this medicine is very hot. Violent bearing down towards genitals. That's a 3. So this woman would have her period coming on and they would have this violent bearing down. They can't get out of bed and it really lays them up for a while. Mastitis is inflamed breasts from breastfeeding. Okay, loss of appetite, averse to meat and milk. So they don't have any appetite, but they're averse to meat and milk. They desire lemons, whereas, some of the other medicines, they desire sweets, they desire Natmer's salt, so there's a lot of different things. But this one, they desire lemons. Great thirst for cold water. And this doesn't have to be in a blown out cold or anything. Someone's desiring lemons and they have a little bit of your rheumatism here and there. You could consider belladonna. Now, what is it? Great thirst for cold water. Now anyways, that's a 3. They want a lot of cold water because they're burning up. Meningitis, that's a brain swelling. Sunstroke, vascular headache, throbbing, hammering headache, especially forehead. So that's why I asked my wife. I said, "What's it feel like? Is it throbbing, pounding, stabbing, burning, sticking? What's the headache feel like?" She said, "Burning." If she would have said throbbing, I would have been to belladonna. And that was just a quick, what's it feel like? And usually you can hit it pretty quick doing that. Pain worse, light, noise, and jar. So they don't want any jarring noise or light. Lying down in an afternoon. So where was that? That said better lying down, better rest in bed. But this lying down is because they can't lie fully down. They want to, where is that? Semi-erect. Where the heck were you? Semi-erect. Flush face, neuralgic pains, taking cold, light jarred bed, semi-erect. So there it is. They can't, it's worse lying down. They need to lie down because they're sick and they don't feel well, but it's worse lying down. So they need to be semi-erect. They can't lie fully down. Where was I? Lying down. And the afternoon, like I said, 3 to 11 p.m. Hydrocephalus, another brain situation. Headache, worse, right side. There's the right sided stuff again. And heart throbbing. There's more throbbing in the heart, in the carotenoids and temporal region in the arteries and throughout the body, but mainly the temporal and the arteries, they're throbbing. And that's why it's throbbing through the body too. Rapid, weak pulse. So the pulse is fast, but it's weak. You can barely detect it. Frequent and profuse urination. That's a 3. Urine's dark and turbid. Turbid is dark and smelly or whatever. But it's profuse. Urinary infections, bladder, paralysis. So I would think it would be more clear when it's, they're urinating a lot and drinking a lot, but the urine gets dark and turbid when this infection, this bladder and paralysis and this infection goes on. That's what happens there. It gets the urine gets dark and turbid. But I guarantee you, when they're drinking a lot in that, it'll be clear. Limbs are cold, jerks, spasms, colds of 3. So the limbs feel cold, but the body feels hot. Jerks and spasms, shooting pains. Joints are swollen, red, shiny. Now that's a big one. That's arthritic type of stuff, rheumatism. Them joints will be red and shiny and swollen. You can have that in apis, maybe bryonia could be there too. With red streaks radiating. That red streaks radiating is usually belladonna. So acute pain extends to shoulder and neck. Worse lying on it. So they can't lie on that neck. And that's why I say people wake up and say, "Oh man, I got a stiff neck," and it's really killing me. So you're thinking I slept wrong or whatever, but it can be some kind of sickness coming on. Worse lying on it. They don't want to lie on that part of the neck. Cheyenne stroke respiration. So their breathing's messed up from this disease they call Cheyenne stroke. Coca and opium and belladonna. Those 3 have that Cheyenne stroke situation. Tickling, short, dry cough, worse at night. I can't get into this stuff too deep. I got a lot to go. It took me an hour last time, so I'm going to try to get it shorter, but who knows. Dry cough at night. It's a tickling in the lungs, and it's a dry, short cough. Worse at night. Moaning every breath. So every breath you, and that's that Cheyenne stroke thing going on. High piping voice. They have a real high voice. Larynx is very painful. Did I do this? Trembling and tottering of limbs. I missed that for the limbs. So the limbs are very shaky. But this moaning every breath, tickling short cough at night, worse at night, and the Cheyenne strokes, coca and opium and belladonna be considered. Testicles, hard, drawn up, inflamed. Everything's inflamed with this medicine. Desire is diminished. They don't care for sex. Soft, painless tumor on glands. So this can be a STD tumors of some sort, or it could be a miasm that they inherited that has this tumor coming out, like a syphilitic or a gonorrheal miasm. Strawberry tongue. So that's why I say you see red, flushed cheeks, red ears, bright red ears. They stick out their tongue as strawberry. The face is pale, around the mouth and everything. Belladonna, you just see that person coming and give them belladonna and then take their case, see what's going on. And, but that could very easily be, if I seen that, I'd just say, do some belladonna and then let's see what else is going on. Sometimes people don't want to take a case. They don't want to answer questions. They're just worn out and tired. Just fix me, man. And if you can take these few keynote symptoms, red hot ears, pale face, cheeks are flushed, tongue strawberry, give belladonna, that person will clear up by the next day usually. Dry, hot, swollen. And that's the thing. The worse it is, the quicker, the more miraculous this medicines will seem. Less detrimental of a disease, it might take time. It may not clear up too quickly. Tongue hangs out in children. So they'll be laying there or whatever, semi-erect, and their tongue will be hanging out. They have a chewing motion in the jaw, stammering speech. Anybody who stammers, lockjaw. Now that could be from hydrophobia, being bit by stepping on a nail, but yeah, that's right. Hydrophobia doesn't do that. But this is good for hydrophobia. Red swollen nosebleed with red face, which I'll read in a second. Coryza mixed with blood. So there's bleeding, hematomia. Is that what it's called? Anyways, there's bleeding from a lot of different places. Bleeding from the hemorrhoids, bleeding from the nose, bleeding from the lungs. You cough up some blood. Tingling in the tip of the nose. Imaginary odors. And tobacco odor is intolerable. Rectum, stinging pain, spasmodic stricture. Stricture means it doesn't, it's spasming and you can't go to the bathroom, nothing will come out. Hemorrhoids with back pain. That's interesting that the back pain is related to the hemorrhoids here. That's like a concomitant, most won't relate that, Prolapsed anus. Ignatia and podophilium and belladonna for that prolapsed anus. Stoles are green. That's what I always ask people. What color's your stole? When they tell me gelsemium's green, belladonna's green, a few of them, it gets you into a category of remedies. I think this is burnt red, bright red, probably bright red. Skin is bright red and glossy, and that's a very big keynote. It's very red and shiny. Um, Arthritis, the knee would be big, swollen, red, and shiny. So that's a big keynote for it. That's a 3. Alternates redness and paleness. So they'll flush, they'll get pale. They'll flush, get pale. That's a 3. Acne, rosacea, intense dermatitis. And there's a bunch of remedies for rosacea and acne, but this could be one of them. Intense dermatitis. Scarlatina, that comes from after strep throat, like I said. Erysipelas, which is skin infections. Indurations after inflammation. So they have an inflamed part of their body, like the knee or something gets inflamed, and then it gets hard afterwards. Suppurative wounds. So the wounds are always have pus coming out. Boils, that's a 3, returns every spring. That's very interesting. So every spring they get boils, you want to consider belladonna. So the rest of the medical is burning heat. Of course, there's a lot of burning heat with this. Bright redness and dryness in the whole body, whatever area. It's always bright red and dry. Fullness in the mouth, whatever, fullness and congestion. So there's a lot of fullness, which is like swelling, especially the head, and congestion. Congestion is like, swelling from fluids or mucuses or stuff. So, and especially the head, and that being hydrocephalus, meningitis, those kind of things. Pains, throbbing, sharp, cutting, shooting pains. Throbbing, cutting, shooting pains in this one. Scarlet fever. Scarlet fever. Yeah, that's scarlatina, basically. Scarlet fever, that's a 3. Exophthalmic goiter, that's hypothyroidism. Your thyroid's putting off too much thyroid stuff. Spasms, shock, jerks. So they jerk, they have spasms, they're twitching, they have all kinds of constrictions going on, constriction of the throat, all that kind of stuff. Sensitive to light, noise, and jarring. That's a big one. These are all 3s. And it's good for hydrophobia, and that comes from being bit by a dog, which is rabies. So, and it could be any other reason, but usually hydrophobia comes from that. Jerks during sleep. That's a 3. Sees frightful visions during the sleep on closing eyes. Let's see. Sleeps with hands under head. Arsenicum, platina, and belladonna. Some people like to sleep with their knees drawn up. Some people like to sleep on their belly, on their back. This one wants to sleep with their hands under their head. And arsenicum, platina, and belladonna all have that. You would think that's not a symptom, but we look for the most unusual things that helps us to determine between one medicine or another. Arsenicum has a lot of burning. So if I'm looking at arsenicum and all that, these 3 medicines would be there. And there are probably other medicines with, the fever. There's a lot of other medicines with fever and that, but this would help me to determine between them, along with the once lemons or sour things. Okay, stomach pains extend to shoulder and throat. Worse pressure. So they don't like no pressure at all, but they go extend to the shoulder and throat from the stomach. So its pains are up from below upward. Nausea, vomiting, empty retching, throbbing pain in the teeth. They grind their teeth. 3. Anybody grinding their teeth, this could be a considered remedy. Gum boils, which is a boil on the gum. Toothache, better biting. So they got a toothache. That might be why they grind their teeth. They're biting down to relieves the pain of the tooth. One of them was they like cold water. Cold water relieves the pain, and most people, their cold water really aggravates the pain. Cold air, but this one wants cold water, and as soon as the water warms up, the pain comes back. They have to spit it out and put more cold water in. So that's very interesting. But this one, they want to bite down. High fever, that's a 3. Delirium, hot head, no thirst with fever. So that's usually with a fever there's thirst. Burning, pungent, steaming heat. So very hot, a lot of hot with this. Dry, hot throat, that's a 3. Tonsillitis, worse on the right side. A lot of this is right-sided remedy. Doesn't have to be right side, but this remedy definitely has a lot of right-sided stuff. Redness, worse right side of the throat. Spasms, which is a 3 of the esophagus. Vertigo, with falling to the left or backwards, or stooping, rising from stooping. So they stoop over and they rise up, they get vertigo, they can't stoop over at all, and they always want to fall to the left or fall backwards. Some other medicines may be to the right or otherwise. Okay, this one I knew was going to be a long one, so I'm going to continue with some comments because I'm going to get comfortable. This medicine is one of the major polycrests: calcar, bryonia, belladonna, aconite, arsenicum. All these ones are major remedies for a lot of things. And if you get to know those polycrest, I don't know if I think I put the polycrest in there, but I'm working on that community all the time. I'm doing an emergency course right now. And that I wanted to start there because that's mostly what we run to homeopathy for: emergency. Something goes wrong, you go right in and give that a certain set of remedies. And like I say, it's usually them polycrest. You get to know them main polycrest, and some of these other littler ones like benzinum I did the other day, that one wouldn't probably be used very much. The one that would be used instead of benzinum would be the ones coming up, which would be, I'm doing Bellus perennis tomorrow, benzoic acid. Benzoic acid is the big one. So same chemical, but a little different. And you basically, you'll be using benzoic acid, but benzinum would be there if benzoic acid didn't work. Same with a lot of the little medicines I do. All right, let's keep going. An enormous number of the symptoms of belladonna are developed in and from the head and sensorium. So the head and all the senses, basically eyes, just like it says, eyes, nose, mouth, ears, all them senses are very affected by belladonna. If you did a proving, you gave that person like I'm going to read 100,000 C, or did I read that? Yeah, I read that in the beginning. 100,000 C, which is a 1M, and that person, and you give it to him until he gets the symptoms, he'll come up with all these symptoms. The senses will get bad, they'll get hot, they'll get throbbing, all that kind of stuff, headaches. Conformably with this, the pains of belladonna run downwards. So, unlike other ones, they run up. Downwards, away from head. So from the head down. Silica and gelsemium also have that. And gelsemium is very close to this remedy, in a lot of ways. Not so much the heat, but the drowsiness and well, no, it's not that close. That's right. Because this one's, the eyes are wide and everything. Gelsemium, they're just laying there, so, but these all have the pains from the head running downwards. Silica, gelsemium, and belladonna have a pain running up. Oh, sorry. Let me slow down. I'm going to be over. I'm way over anyway, so who cares? Belladonna runs downward from the head down, except for that stomach one, which is the neck and shoulder comes and throat. Worst pressure. Pains extend to shoulder and throat from the stomach. So, anyways, away from the head. Silica and gelsemium have a pain running up the back. So this one runs down from the head, the pains, and the gelsemium and silica run upward. That's how you tell the difference. Because if you have a flu, gelsemium could be it, belladonna could be it, aconite. There's a bunch of them, arnica, a bunch of things that you would consider in a flu and that, and then you'd have to determine which one fits better. To understand right the action and uses of this great medicine, it is necessary to bear in mind some leading features which characterize its action in all parts of the organism. So every part of the organ, whether it's the joints or the flus, the cold, the head, whatever it is, skin. The several points to be remembered about belladonna are that it is a medicine which has great general sensitiveness and also sensitiveness of the special senses. So sensitive like touch, noise, jar, and that's basically got to do with the senses: the feeling, the touch, the eyes, the ears. Everything becomes more sensitive, especially the senses. Sensitive to light, to slightest noises, to motion or jar, as when someone touches the bed. And that's how, I just read that a homeopathic come in and see this person there, and they're probably looking, their eyes are red, or I mean, their ears are bright red, their face is flushed, they're pale in their in their mouth and that, and they would just go in and touch the bed, and if the person reacted, they would know belladonna. This is one feature which resides. Belladonna so appropriate in hydrophobia, um, which is the senses being more pronounced. It is a chilly medicine sensitive to changes from warm to cold to drought of air to damp weather. So and mercury has that. The mercury, they're like a thermometer. Any change of weather, bothers them. So also the same with belladonna. To chilling from having the head uncovered or having the hair cut. Better from being wrapped up warmly in a room. So if they a lot of times they'll cover their head up and be under there, and they uncover and they get that chill and they get funky. Under this remedy, there is a remarkable quickness of sensation or of motion. So they move quickly, their sensation comes on quickly, everything comes on quickly. The eyes snap and move quickly. The pains come and go suddenly, no matter how long they may last. They are in great variety, but throbbing, burning, and stabbing are very characteristic. Throbbing, burning, and stabbing is usually, what's it feel like? Throbbing. What's it feel like? Oh, it feels like something stabbing. And what's the other one? Are very burning. Yeah, burning. You hear burning. Now, burning was what I did with arsenicum. So that's why I say arsenicum's pretty close with this. But burning was what I gave my, what's it feel like? Throbbing, pounding, burning, stabbing. She said burning, I gave her arsenicum. Why didn't I give belladonna? She didn't have that flushed look or anything like that. But stabbing from one temple to the other. So there'll be a stabbing pain going through. The great intensity and variety of the head pains has caused belladonna to be regarded as the headache medicine par excellence. Why didn't I give that? Gave arsenicum instead of belladonna. She said burning, and I thought right away arsenicum. Gave it to her. I didn't see no flushed face, no flushed ears, no paleness, no nothing like that. Just the fact that she was having that headache and it was burning. She'd have said throbbing, I might have went with belladonna. But it's a great headache remedy. Congestion of blood to the head, vertigo, mostly at night on turning over in bed or when getting up in the morning. Also when walking and on every change of position. Headache with flushed face and brilliant eyes, dilated pupils. So the eyes are wide, pupils are dilated, the face is flushed. This is a great one for, belladonna. Feeling, and it doesn't matter what the thing is, pneumonia, hydrocephalus, whatever it is, flus, colds, rheumatism, whatever it is, that dilated pupils, brilliant eyes, flushed face, hot, all that kind of stuff, throbbing, what is it, burning, throbbing, stabbing pains, all kinds of things like that. Feeling in brain like swashing of water, so it feels like the brain is just swashing around in there. Throbbing, pulsating headache with beating arteries. See, that's why I say it was the burning headache. I just gave arsenicum and it worked well. If it wouldn't have, I could have went to belladonna. But this is a beating, throbbing headache. Beating in arteries and violent palpitations of the heart. In the mental sphere are mania, rage, disposition to bite, scratch, and tear things. So this person's very violent. Whether it's a child with an earache and they're just in such pain, they're biting and thrashing and that. Chamomile's a good one. Belladonna's a good one for ear stuff. Fantastic illusions when closing eyes. Dull and sleepy. So they're seeing things when they close their eyes. Half asleep and half awake. So that's why I say gelsemium, that's what they look like. Their eyes are half masked and they just look like they're going to go to sleep. Spasms and twitchings are very marked. So a lot of twitching and spasms, and good for, anyways. Many disorders of visions, heat, redness, and burning are three great characteristic notes of belladonna. Burning, redness, heat, redness, and burning. Three great characteristics, along with the pains being burning, stabbing, and throbbing. Notes of belladonna and are prominently cropping out in the pathogenesis. So anywhere you have this disease, if it's in the joint, it'd be heat. It'd be really hot, redness and burning. And bryonia has that redness and burning and shiny. This one would be shiny. Same with belladonna, bryonia, and also apis would be the same thing. The face is purple, red, and hot or yellow. Redness and pallor alternates, so they're flushed and then they're pale. The mouth is exceedingly dry without thirst. So this says great thirst. So this must be uh, further into the disease. They're just like, they're really dry, they're really worn out, and they just don't have any thirst anymore. Stinging in the esophagus. Now, if you're just starting into the disease, because there's stages of the disease, you're just starting into it, you probably have a great thirst because you're hot. Where does it say that? Food, loss of appetite, meat and milk, desires lemons, great thirst for cold water. Now that's, you're just starting into it. You got a high fever, you're real hot, things are dry, you're drinking a lot of cold water. And then, like I said, with the urine, where is that? Kidney. Frequent and profuse urination will be going on in that stage of the disease. But then, later you have bladder paralysis, urinary infections, whatever's going on there. Urine becomes dark and turbid because you're dry and you're not thirsty anymore. Pulsatilla has, what is that? No thirst? I think pulsatilla is no thirst too. Stinging in esophagus. So stinging pain, I would think of apis. What's it feel like? Burning, stabbing, stinging, throbbing. They'd say stinging, my throat's stinging. Oh, okay, let's try apis. Worse swallowing or talking. Esophagus feels contracted. Sensation of a hand clutching intestines. So something squeezing the intestines down there. Stools and lumps like chalk. Spasmodic contractions of anus, which doesn't allow them to go to the bathroom, which is obstinate. It doesn't go away. Or obstinate constipation, and that probably from them contractions and stuff. Bleeding, hemorrhoids. A lot of bleeding with this medicine. Back pains is a breaking. It feels like the back's going to break. The menstrual flow is hot, of light color or bad smell. Now it says light color, but this says deep red. What was a female? Menses lochia offensive, bright red, too early and too profuse. So this is probably a different stage here. Sensation of clutching. Okay, where is it? Hemorrhoids. No. Yeah, the menstrual flow is hot, and everything's hot with this, of light color or bad smell. Okay, cough is short, dry, tickling, similar to cough of Rumex and phosphorus. So phosphorus and Rumex, if you looked up a cough, it was dry, tickling, and short, like and they'd keep doing that, then you would think of Rumex, phosphorus, or belladonna. Then you'd have to take some of the other symptoms and match the medicine to what's going on with that person. Because either one, it doesn't matter. Whatever, if a flu or cold's coming around, someone may be a Rumex, someone may need phosphorus, and someone may need belladonna. So whooping cough with crying or pains before the attack, because imagine it hurts. Flushed face, nosebleed, and bloody expectoration. So blood coming out of the nose, out of the mouth from the coughs. Sparks fly before eyes. So they got like, sparks basically. Stitches in spleen, involuntary stool, and urine. So that's getting into diarrhea type of stuff. Can alternate either way depending on where you're at in the disease. Paralysis of lungs and heart, which is related to the vagus nerve. So this obviously could be a great vagus nerve remedy. Violent palpitations of the heart. So the lungs and the heart are paralyzed, have paralysis. They can't breathe and get their things going. Belladonna can open that up, and that could be related to the vagus nerve. Stitches in chest. Stitches are like sharp pains, swelling of breast with bright red streaks radiating from center of inflammation. So those bright red streaks can be in a arthritic thing or whatever's going on. You'll have bright red streaks running down. Rheumatism, worse by motion. So that worse by motion is bryonia. That's why I say bryonia can be related to this medicine pretty well. Russ talks is better by motion. Sweat on covered parts only. And you'd think the parts that are covered, they can't uncover to get a chill. So now they cover, they sweat. So it's quite a dilemma. A very general characteristic of belladonna is worse on lying down. So that's why they want to sit semi-erect. They need to lie down because they're weak, tired, and run down, but they need to sit erect. Everything's working right. Yeah. It refers to headache and all kinds of inflammatory disorders. So a headache is just basically an inflammation of the brain. They get a headache because the vessels are inflamed, and you got to get that inflammation done. But any other inflammatory disorders like rheumatism will inflame the joints. So some characteristic symptoms are tenderness of abdomen, worse by least jar. So they can't take any kind of movement in the abdomen. It's very tender. That's a 3. Pressing downward as if contents of abdomen would issue through vulva. So that's in the woman, of course. Worse mornings, often associated with pain in back as if it would break. So there's that menses. The poor lady has menses, and her back feels like it's breaking. All her innards feel like they're pushing out through the vulva. So it really can lay up some woman, and Belladonna could just the woman would be doing flips once. That wouldn't happen every month, and they call it like PMS basically. Starting twitching or jumping in sleep, moaning in sleep, sleepy but cannot sleep. The characteristic skin of Belladonna is uniform, smooth, shiny, scarlet redness. So that's why I say whether it's joints, arthritis. If you have arthritis of the knee, it'd be swollen, red. Where is that? Smooth, red, shining, uh, down there. Swollen, smooth, red, and shiny. And it would be glossy probably. A lot of times it looks glossy. I guess because of the swelling makes it, and the redness makes it look glossy. So hot that it imparts a burning sensation to the hand to one who feels it. So whether it's you're feeling the head or you're feeling that joint that's swollen, red, and hot, it would actually it would be too hot. It would be hot for the hand, very hot. Sweat on covered parts only is also a marked symptom of belladonna. So other remedies for flus and that, they would sweat whether they were covered or not. The almost absolute deafness in cases is noteworthy in connections with Dr. Cooper's cure of a very chronic case of deafness with single drop doses of belladonna. Now, they weren't given the tincture, they were given the homeopathic remedy in drop doses rather than sugar tablets. But this deafness, I don't know if it came from scarlatina, if it came from ear infection, whatever, but that deafness went away. So it's not me saying it, it's Dr. Cooper wrote that in the books. Belladonna is predominantly a right-sided medicine. Right side of head, right eye, right ear, right face, right teeth, right hypochondrium, which is the upper part of the abdomen on the right side, right chest, right upper limbs, right lower limbs. So a lot of right-sided stuff. So yeah, like I said, this is a major polychrist remedy, but when someone comes in and you see them bright red ears, flushed cheeks, pale face in the front, pupils are dilated, eyes are staring wide, they stick out their tongue and it's scarlet looking, you just go right for belladonna. You wouldn't even have to wait. That's why a lot of these Indian doctors could sit down and have people putting a prescription together for the person, and they would come through and the person would look and say belladonna, bryonia, rust tox. They might say, what does this feel? What does it feel like? Or what? They would ask 1 or 2 questions, and then they would tell them a medicine, arsenicum. They just arnica. They wouldn't even have to know what happened. They would just basically be able to look at the person. Calcarb, they're plump. Silica, they're emaciated. The silica's like sand. It's good for people who don't have nutrition is bad. And I was on that call, and that lady, those two said they were doing in Syria, and they were giving cell salts to people who weren't getting the nutrition, and the cell salts actually help the nutritive properties of the body to work. How does that work? I don't know. You're not getting the right nutrition. You're barely getting any food. Cell salts seem to be able to overcome that. So anyways, that's morning medicine. Tomorrow's Bellus perennis, which is a deep tissue. Any kind, it relates with arnica and different ones like that. You get hit in the leg or something, and arnica's not working. It's a deeper tissue thing. You'd think of Bellus perennis. So That is tomorrow, which is Friday, and then Monday we're going to go with the rest of the. I did benzium because I had a small remedy. I had the what is it called? The beech, which was a Bach flower remedy, and so I went to benzium. But benzium should have been in with this group. But benzium, then after benzium would have been benzium dinitricum, benzium nitricum, and benzoic acid. That's the big one. Okay, so some of these smaller ones you wouldn't use as much. You wouldn't even consider them. You get to know the polycrest like belladonna, arnica, aconite, all these ones, arsenicum, rustox. You get to know these polycrest, and they usually will take care of most cases. And what did he say in benzium? I think he said something like in benzium, if I forget, one of the benziums didn't work, then you could use benzicum, benzonicum. What is that medicine? Benzinum. That's what it is, benzinum. So, yeah, these littler ones aren't proven as much. They, a lot of times, don't need to be proven because we already got a remedy that takes care of a lot of it. But it wouldn't be bad to go back and prove these medicines and get a larger set of symptomologies from it to know what it's actually good for, because I don't doubt a lot of these remedies have a lot more than what they are. Even like beech being, they're just using it for mental symptoms. But I guarantee if you took beech uh, and you proved it, you might find a lot of physical stuff too to go along with it. What is it? Paranoid. They're paranoid. They put people down. They always want to hold others down so they feel important. I don't doubt if you proved it, you would get more symptoms within the mind, within the abdomen, back, all that. This Bach flower remedies go for the mental situation. So, and there's quite a few of them. So, and I'll be going through all of them as I go through the book in alphabetical order as I'm doing. So tomorrow, join me. It is what I say. Burbus, no. It is Bellis perennis, yeah, which is daisy. So the medicine made out of the plant daisy. All right, that's morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. I sure hope this one takes because I don't feel like doing this again. I'm running out of time. I got more things to do, man. All right.